Hey guys, TommyBryson here, and how do you set your kids up for success when it comes to investing and actually have money by the time they turn 18 or they actually come of age wherever they are, okay? So this means in this video, I'll break down the best investment accounts for them, the best apps for them, and also some general tips on how to make sure you avoid having a kid that ends up with a lot of money and then spends it on trash, okay? And by the way, I know that the majority of us watching this video did not have a head start. For example, someone to pay our student loans, someone to pay for our first car, someone to pay, for example, for a down payment on a home. Most likely, we didn't have that. So when you don't have that, what do you want to do for your kids? You kind of want to provide that helping hand to them. However, guys, I am a strong believer, honestly here, doesn't matter how much money I have, I'm never going to pay for everything for my kids. Not the best idea, in my opinion. I'm going to help, like, hey, here's a way where you're actually able to invest. I'll match what you invest. When you go to school, I'll match what you actually pay. So that way you can graduate debt free, but I'm not going to do everything for them, because if you do everything, then what is the motivation to do anything? And that's what you want to avoid, okay? So in this video, I won't teach you how to have a millionaire, like 18-year-old, although you could, but I'll teach you how to make sure your kid can basically have money to cover all of his student loan debt, to have money for a down payment, to have money for retirement, and to have all that stuff set up. And that's what I'm gonna teach you today in this video. So if you're new here, subscribe, hit the bell to get notified, and welcome to the channel. We call ourselves the long-term team. And on top of that, if you guys have been here for a while, well, you guys know the vibe, just smash the like button. It helps a lot. Now, the very first thing, guys, and I know this is a big question and we get asked this all the time is, Tommy, what app should I be using when it comes to opening up, for example, a 529 account, a custodial account, an ESA account? And don't worry, we are going to get into that later on in this video. However, though, the most popular apps right now are usually going to be Acorns, or for example, usually like M1 Finance, and also like the Stash app. But a lot of those little apps out there, they usually charge you a fee. And that fee adds up to a lot of money if you're going to be investing for 10 or 18 years for your child. Now this means, for example, I have M1 Finance. I use M1 Finance. I love M1 Finance, but in order to actually have a custodial account with them, I have to pay $125 every single year, or the equivalent of around $10.42. And that might sound like, Tommy, not a big deal, but if I invested that same $10.42 over 18 years at an 11.47%, well, I would actually have somewhere around $7,360.46. So whenever you talk about fees, I'm not a big fan of them, especially for a long-term investor, because in reality, $7,000 is covering, for example, the books, some of the housing, and some of the tuition also. So I don't want to waste that money paying it to a fee to do something I could do somewhere else for free. So when you ask me, Tommy, what platform should I use to open up a custodial account or an ESA account? My opinion is, you have Fidelity, you have Charles Schwab's, you also have, for example, Vanguard, and lastly, you have TD Ameritrade. And most of those right there are actually free. However, my favorite one, if I'm being honest, is going to be Charles Schwab. Why? Because you're able to invest with fractional shares in case you don't have money to buy like a full share of a very expensive stock. And you're able to just do everything a lot better and have like a whole portfolio and build it up. It's just amazing. But don't make a decision based on my opinion. Go try these apps out. It is free to open up an account and see which one you like the best. But in my opinion, free-wise, I like Charles Schwab a lot. And the only reason I have M1 Finance is because basically, I have so much money in the savings accounts portion that they pay for their own membership fee. But to do that, you have to have at least $12,500 in that account to justify paying for that $125 fee every single year, okay? So basically, if you have $12,500, they give you 1% on the savings accounts, okay? So multiply by 0.01%, that covers the $125 fee. So that's how I'm able to do it and not pay with my money, but pay with their money and get all the fancy features and so on, okay? But again, it's a hassle. I just rather have, for example, Charles Schwab's instead if you don't have that much money to actually put aside, okay? That's my opinion, and that's what I recommend, okay? Now, you're probably wondering, Tommy, okay, I know what platforms to look at. However, what account should I actually open up in those platforms? And, you know, I'm not a parent just yet, but I know the saying says, Tommy, every parent looks at their kids like they're an angel and everything is going to be fine. However, not all kids grow up to be amazing adults, or we wouldn't have, for example, the Zodiac, Killer. He was a baby once. Or we wouldn't have, for example, Bernie Madoff, the biggest scammer in the world, but he was a baby once, cute and stuff, but he ended up being a scammer. So my point is, you know, no matter how cute a baby is, when you first have them and they're your kid or whatever, and you love them, you gotta make sure you have a safety net to kind of lock them out of the account in case they become, you know, Bernie Madoff or some crazy person, you know what I'm saying? Or they have like a crazy addiction that you don't want to enable them to actually continue, right? So you want to get an account that kind of limits what they're actually able to do. But if you trust your kids, which is fine, you instill great habits, don't worry, I'll also give you some of those accounts. So I'm going to give you right now in this video educational accounts, so education only, also retirement accounts, and also accounts that are actually educational but also flexible that can be used for more than just education. Okay, so the first part and the most popular part most likely is going to be, Tommy, education. That's what I really care about. So which account do I open? The main two that people talk about are ESA accounts, so basically educational savings accounts, and you can have that opened up anywhere and invest into whatever stock there is out there. And it's kind of like an IRA where you actually have a limit though, okay? Obviously the money grows tax-free and all this cool stuff, okay? But you're limited to only investing $2,000 a year. So it is limited. So if you're starting out a little late, like, you know, like they're 16, well, they're only gonna have like around like, you know, like $8,000 or whatever, you know what I mean? But it is still worth it. And you're able to put money into it and let it keep growing and growing and growing. However, if you want to invest even more money, you could actually open up a 529 account with your state. Now, the con is that basically you're limited to investments, okay? You just can't invest into whatever you want. You're limited in that sense. And on top of that, you're actually able to invest a lot more money, up to $15,000 per individual per child. So, you know, the grandma, the grandpa, the parents, they can all invest $15K each into that account, so you don't really have a limit, but you do have a contribution limit per person of $15,000, which is a lot. But again, these accounts are only for education, okay? So meaning, in my opinion, I would do the ESA account first, and if you have more money to invest, then go ahead and open up a 529 account and invest more money over there. But I like the ES account a lot more. It gives you a lot more flexibility. However, one main thing is, guys, remember, okay, $2,000 a year divided by 12, that's around $166 every single month. So that's something you can actually be able to do. So not that crazy. Now, one thing is, okay, because this money is supposed to be used for educational purposes only, it means, for example, if you don't use it for that, you get to pay taxes on it, you know, like income taxes. And on top of that, you also get a 10% penalty. And by the way, the squad over at the Dave Ramsey Solutions actually has this whole thing right here, okay? And it's kind of like a contrast thing that shows you, hey, here are the main differences between an ESA account or, for example, a 529 plan. And the main differences are basically, hey, you're able to do a lot more with the 529 account. You're able to invest a lot more money, but overall, it's kind of like very similar. And the 529 account, it does limit you, for example, when it comes to what you're actually able to invest into. So those are some of the cons when it comes to that account. So again, think wisely on which one you actually want. But I would recommend get the ESA account first. And then if you have more money to invest and you're able to actually do it, for example, with the 529 account, if you have some rich grandparents or whatever, okay, which most of us probably don't have. And again, guys, remember, not every single brokerage out there is going to allow you to have a 529 account or an ESA account, but Charles Schwab's, they do. And that's why I love them, okay? Most like brokerages out there, what they do offer is, for example, a custodial account. Now, let's get into that, okay? Because again, 529 ESA, more for just education, okay? However, what if you actually want to do more? What if you actually want to have your kids be set up, for example, for retirement? What are your options then? Well, the answer is you have a custodial IRA or Roth option, or you have a custodial account, brokerage account, like normal stuff. Now, what's the big difference here? The difference is, for example, with the custodial IRA, your child has to have a part-time job or a full-time job, just has to have some income. And the con is, okay, they're limited to only investing up to $6K per year, which, let's be honest, which is a lot of money. And on top of that, they can't invest more than they actually made. So that means, hey, if you're trying to be a cool parent and say like, hey, you know what, we're going to max this out fully, but they didn't make that much money, you can't do it. Okay, the kid needs to make and invest an equal amount of the money they actually made. So if they only made $1,000, they could only invest $1,000. Now, this means, for example, if your daughter, by the way, I saw this example on Dave Ramsey's site, but if your daughter is doing babysitting and makes, for example, $200 every single month, okay, so that's 200 multiplied by 12, that's the total amount of $2,400 a year. If she makes this much, but she wants to invest $100 and you want to match $100 of your own money, you're able to do that because you're still only investing $2,400. That's how it works. But she can't invest $200 a month, and you also invest $200 a month because obviously it's going to be $4,800, and that's more than she actually made. Now, some parents, what they do is this, okay? And by the way, remember, a custodial IRA, you manage it, but once that kid turns 18 or legal of age, they're actually able to take the account, it goes into their name and everything like that, and they manage it themselves and do whatever they want with that money, okay? Now, some parents, what they do is this, okay? They have a business and they put their kid as an employee in the business and pay them $12,000 a year. Now, this means they have income, but it's the standard deduction, so they don't pay taxes on it. But that way, they're able to have income, they're able to invest all that money, while you also get a deduction by having an employee. So some parents actually do that. But remember, the big con is, again, you don't have control what that kid does when they do turn, 18. So that's why I like the matching method where basically you have a job and you put some of your money, but I also match it. So that way we're both investing, but you see the value in what you're doing. It's not like, okay, daddy and mommy are going to do everything for me. I don't like that. And the normal custodial accounts, for example, what you usually see with, like Acorns and M1 Finance, that has no limit whatsoever, but it also has no tax advantage. And it also means that you're able to invest as much money as you want into that account, into whatever you want. But once again, they turn 18, they can take all of that money out. While, for example, with the Roth custodial, that money grows fully tax-free. And because it's post-tax income, they don't have to ever pay taxes whatsoever. And that to me is pretty cool. And again, the Dave Ramsey team, man, they're doing an amazing job over there. They actually have this little graph that shows you the potential earnings. So I'm going to show you guys right now. And basically, if you have a kid and you're trying to set them up for success, right? What can happen is this. Let me zoom in all the way here. Guess what? If they start at age 16 and basically invest like $200 per month until they're 20 years old, they'll have at the end of that around $15,903 at an 11% gain. However, if they never invested any money again until they retire, they would retire with somewhere around $2.1 million. That's the cool thing. So just by investing $12,000 overall, you're able to turn that into $2.1 million by leaving that money there and letting it do what it does. Okay, so again, man, I love compound interest. It really does do magic. So when you have, for example, custodial IRA, just $12K, if you don't touch it, sets them up to be a millionaire by the time they actually turn like 65 years old. Okay, so that to me is amazing. Meaning you don't have to invest a ton of money. Meaning also, you could also say, well, I'm going to invest into the ESA account for education, obviously, also into the custodial IRA, Roth IRA, and then that way, they can have the education factor covered. But when it comes also to a down payment, they can take some of that money, like a first-time homeowner, and they're also able to save that money up for retirement. And to me, that is awesome overall. Now, The last options are, for example, well, Tommy, what if I don't want to worry about retirement or just education? Because what if my kid doesn't want to go to college, which I'm fine with, okay? I don't know how fine I am with that, because I do believe in education, but I am also an entrepreneur. So it's kind of like, it's a conversation to have. But you're also able to open up, for example, a UGMA or a UTMA, which basically stands for Uniform Gift Minors Act, or for example, Uniform Transfer Minors Act. And what this means is basically, again, kind of like the 529 account, you're able to invest per individual $50,000, but it's not just limited for education. They're able to actually use it for whatever they want. So it's kind of like a 529 account, but you're able to do whatever you want. And that's the pretty cool thing about it. But again, overall, this means you have to make sure that your kid knows what they're gonna do and that you actually trust them, because if you have a lot of money in this account and then they're 18 and they wanna waste his money on a brand new Mercedes, then you can't do anything about it. So there is that, okay? So keep that in mind. But again, those are the main accounts right there. So you have educational ones, ESA, 529 account. You have retirement ones. You have, for example, the custodial IRA or the normal custodial account. And then you also have, for example, other options that are not, for example, just education. You have, for example, the Uniform Minors Act. And you also have, for example, the Uniform Transfers Act, okay, which actually gives you a lot of benefits, okay? But again, they're able to do whatever they actually want with that account. And if you just don't want to give your kids any money whatsoever, like, you know, they transfer automatically, you know, just open, for example, a normal brokerage account, invest money in there under your name, and if things turns out to be okay with your kid, you're actually able to have them have that money. But if they don't, you keep the money and you don't gotta worry about it, okay? But guys, before you go, I do have some more information. So if you made it this far, stick around till the end, because I think this right here is gonna help you out a lot, okay? But overall, Tommy, this is great. But what are the rules here? You know, I have rules. My rules are take care of yourself first before you try to take care of your kids. So meaning, make sure you have no debt. Make sure you have an emergency fund. Make sure you have money being invested into your own retirement accounts, and make sure also you try to have a paid off home. And then if you want to, while you're investing also, you can invest like 5% into the retirement, into their account for your kids, like 529, ESA, custodial, whatever it is, okay? But then you can actually do it, but you gotta make sure you're taken care of. You kind of like get on a plane, they tell you all the time, like, hey, put your mask on first before you put the mask on the kid, because if you put it on the kid, but before you do it, you get knocked out, then you both are gone, okay? So take care of yourself first. And on top of that, pass on to your kids not just money, but the skills of money management and also work ethic and adversity. All these things matter a lot. You don't want to have a kid with a lot of money with no money skill, because usually Hollywood shows you that leads to very bad things. And lastly, Tommy, overall, what should I invest into when it comes to these accounts? The answer is, if you want to copy my portfolio, I have a link down below to M1 Finance. When you click it, you see exactly what I invest into, and you can copy it over to Schwab's or whatever you want to do, okay? However, though, I do believe that having a stock-only index fund portfolio is fine. Honestly, like, no bonds necessary. But once you get closer to like, yo, my kid is about to be, for example, like 17 going to college, I would probably turn to a 50-50 stock and bond portfolio, because that way, if the market drops, you want to have bonds in there to still take care of the kid's education and wait until the market actually recovers. And if you are kind of like more risk averse, you can turn it to like, hey, 80% bonds and then 20% stocks. That way, if things do go wrong, once they're closer, you're able to fully take care of everything. But again, in the beginning, if you start at age like 1 to 18 or 10 to 18 or 16 to 18, it is okay to have a 100% stock portfolio. In index funds, obviously, it's very diversified. That way, you get all the growth, okay? And to me, that's awesome. But to me, the best, most important part is help them, but don't enable them and do everything, okay? That is what I'm going to live by, me and my wife, okay, guys? I'll see you guys tomorrow, though. Thanks for watching. As always, like, subscribe, hit the bell to get notified, comment down below any questions. And remember, everything I said here, although it was a lot, is listed in the description down below. So don't worry, everything is down below. On top, if you want to call me, link down below. If you want to DM me on Instagram, TommyBryson. More content here on investing, my portfolio, all that stuff. And here is my channel. Subscribe right here. Long-term team out.